Hello and welcome back. This is video number 2, and we are going to talk about preparation, which is crucial because a lot of times, and a lot of the reasons why we fail to retain the knowledge is because we do not know exactly why we are taking notes. A lot of times we try to just take notes just to take notes, because you got to realize that note-taking is not transcribing. The big difference here is that we are trying to figure out the reason why you want to take notes. Because think about it, if you know the reason why, then you can be specific as to whether you take certain notes, whether you decide not to jot certain things down. So let me give you some specifics here. Failing to plan is planning to fail. So essentially what we're trying to do is we're trying to plan ahead and get an idea of what the end goal is. So you want to have a goal in mind, and you want to think about what's the purpose of your notes. Because if you don't really know the purpose, then guess what? You're really not going to know what you need to do to achieve the end goal. So let's say, for example, that you were watching a webinar, and if your end goal is to figure out something very specific and you jot every single thing down, then every single thing will eventually override what your end goal is, right? So that is why preparation is crucial. So what I want to do is give you an idea by giving you a list of questions so that you can really think clearly and thoroughly about every step of the way. So that way you can plan successfully. So the first question is, will you use your notes as a reference guide? Or will you make a diagram out of it? So you see where I'm going here? Will you create a course presentation out of it? Will you create a PowerPoint presentation out of it? So if you have an idea of what you want to do, then you can be selective as far as what you decide to put down on paper. So for example, if you're taking a webinar and your goal is to create a diagram or an infographic, then what you might want to do is try to collect facts, data, and statistics and things like that that would actually stand out, where you could actually visually explain things, right? Now, on the other side, if it's a reference guide, then you might want to jot a good portion down. Or if you want to create a course presentation out of it, then you're going to want to get an idea of what's applicable, what's practical, so that you can teach it, and then you can apply the practical information so that people have kind of a step-by-step way of doing things. So another question is, will you create an article based on it? So here are just some of the few ideas, but you can also elaborate on it. You can do so much more. You don't really have to just stay within the confines of these questions. So basically, in line with your notes purpose, what's the most productive method? So that's the question. Is it pen? Is it paper? Is it a tablet? Is it a mobile device? Should you use a laptop? What should you use to kind of retain that knowledge? Well, if you think about this, you want to think about how you want your notes to look like and how effective you are. Are you more effective when it comes to pen and paper? Or are you more effective when it comes to kind of an electronic device? Because different people are different. So it comes down to you and how you are productive about it. But at the same time, it also comes down to how you want the notes to look like. So for example, do you need to take down bulleted notes, bullet points, charts, graphs, or a checklist? If you want to have, bulleted points, you may want to put it on to some sort of electronic device. And how do you want to categorize your notes? For example, do you want to categorize your notes according to topic or according to speaker? maybe you're at a conference and you want to jot down the certain speakers and the notes that apply to that particular speaker and specific topics. Maybe you want to break it up into very specific topics so that way you can go back and understand the notes better. And there, if you think about it, a lot of the reasons why we look at our notes and think, what was I thinking? It's because we didn't categorize it, and our brain is trying to really struggle in trying to figure out, what is what. So that's why you really want to think about these specific items and apply those to your notes. Now, what's most convenient is a way for you to take notes. And that might be a question that you're thinking. So what is the most convenient way for you to take notes? Or what's the fastest way? And where will you be taking notes? So that's something that you need to think about. What is the fastest way to take notes? Is it, tablet? Is it pen and paper? And so forth. So for example, some of us would prefer a mobile device. So for example, maybe an iPhone with Siri. So if we are, for example, listening to a webinar, we could put our notes in using Siri or some sort of transcribing software and speak it in and really create our notes really fast. So that's one example of creating it perhaps the fast way. Now, if you're in a live conference, however, you probably can't do that. Otherwise, everybody will look like at you. So you would probably need to find the fastest way to achieve that, maybe with a mobile device without Siri, but maybe you're able to type really fast. But some of you might be really good at pen and paper. So that really comes down to you. So that's a question that you're going to need to ask yourself. And where will you be taking the notes? So location is important too, so that you know which method is most feasible. So with that said, let's move on to video number 3, and we will talk about setting the mood for productive note taking. So we're going to talk about location and environment and things like that, and how to utilize your environment to be effective. So with that said, we'll see you there.